It should be
Cool.
working now.
All right, the recording has started, and this is the November 9th, 2020 Crossplane Community Meeting. Still got some folks joining in now, but welcome to all. So biggest news of the last week is that we released the 0.14 release of Crossplane on Friday, including releases or updates for all of the providers as well too. So you can get more information about the release and what was included in there in the release notes. Excuse me. And there was some nice community contributions as well during this release cycle. Khosrow added the leader election functionality to all of our providers across all of the ecosystem there. So thank you for that work and that contribution, Khosrow. Appreciate that. Number of other notes here as part of the release notes. And Phil, was there a blog post already? You said like this, that was 0.13.
Yeah, so the KubeCon things are at the bottom of that, and then we got a 0.14 blog post that'll probably go out later today.
Oh, okay, it hasn't been published yet?
Yep.
Okay, 0.14 blog post. Okay, cool. Yes, and thank you to Khosrow, as we already mentioned, and Casey as well too for the contributions and help on this release here, and everyone else obviously too that contributed to all the great functionality that's in there. So that is great that we got that out before KubeCon here. It was a nice effort towards the stabilization and the path to 1.0, which we can talk about now here. So the items that Phil did update the roadmap so that the items for that we're targeting for a V 1.0 is listed right here in the roadmap. Phil also made this a little easier to read too by including a table of contents to be able to jump through the two releases a little bit easier here. So yeah. 1.0, what's that, Phil?
Oh, if you actually jump over to master, we cleaned that up on Friday.
Oh, oops, I am in the release branch. There we go.
Cool. Yeah, so,
okay, so 14 has been in the release section now, got it.
Yep, and we got leader election in, thanks to Khosrow's contribution there in 0.14. So yeah, just some cleanup, some updates on composition, dependency management for package manager. It was largely there. Dan had it there for 0.14, but then we decided to push that out to 1.0 just to err on the side of stability for 0.14. And we got a ton of work on the provider code generation that's currently going on. We actually have MoveOffX got an initial set of AWS resources that for the API gateway as well as ECR that's being co-generated now to the ACK pipeline. So that's looking really good. Casey's made a ton of progress on the code gen for Terraform, and so have linked in the WIP, the very WIP set of generated resources, just so you can get a sneak peek there. And then also, Matthew Christensen has done a really great job getting the Azure CodeGen pipeline going in combination with Casey. So yeah, we're looking like we're having a lot of great momentum on the CodeGen for the providers. And yeah, that's basically the focus for 1.0, just kind of continue that and then get things wrapped up for 1.0.
Yep, so I don't know if this has been quite yet updated since we literally just made the last release on Friday. So we probably need to do some cleanup work on this board, I would assume. But maybe it's up to date.
Yeah, so
it looks fairly clean
on Thursday.
Okay.
So it should be pretty close. There might be one or two items that need to be added or removed, but by and large, it should be good.
Okay, great. That's fantastic. Okay, so this link to the project board here, you can get a good overview of everything that's been accepted and the status of work in progress as well too. The main themes of the effort towards a 1.0 release are kind of what Phil was mentioning there and specified a little bit here in the roadmap entry as well. Phil kind of gave us an overview of the a little bit of the details of these focus areas and these themes for the 1.0 release. Are there owners of those that maybe want to give a little bit more details about what's going to be included or what the focus area is? I think hardening and stabilization is kind of overall general thing. But anything specific for composition to kind of dive into there, or that summary was good enough, sufficient?
There are a few things that we still want to do before 1.0. For example, there is a PR that updates updates on the claim should reflect on the composite resource. Yeah, these are the ones, pretty much, I would say.
Excellent. Yeah, I really like the claim update propagation, so you can change after initial creation, being able to change some of the values on your claim to a particular resource, and then have that flow through and update the resources. Very, very useful. So I really like that one. Cool. Okay. Dan, do you want to, any other details do you want to add around the package manager updates for 1.0 as well?
No, I think it's mostly dependency resolution. I guess one thing that came up that I think Simon, who doesn't look like he's on the call today, mentioned, which is kind of a smaller thing, but updating the controller config to be able to override the image of the controller, which we didn't support right off the bat, mostly because that kind of it feels like it violates the integrity of a package to fundamentally change the controller image inside of it. That being said, we are allowing, passing arguments and that sort of thing, so you can modify some of it. His reason for wanting that was that he had to use a registry mirror. So he wanted to basically use the package from there, and then also, but not have to rebuild the contents of the package. Just basically pull the package and push it up to the registry. But he also needs to be able to pull the controller image through that as well. So yeah, we'll probably look at that a little bit, but that's really the only other major thing besides just, any sort of performance enhancements and that sort of thing for the package manager.
And Dan, I know you had done like at least the initial basic implementation of dependency resolution in a branch or something. Is that like almost ready to go into master already from that effort, or is there like some cleanup and stuff to do?
There's definitely some cleanup to do. I don't have a PR open for it. And that was, I guess, about a week ago now that I gave that demo. And so that kind of got put on hold last week. So there's some cleanup, but the general model works as expected.
Awesome. And then the AWS reference platform that we have, that configuration package there, I believe that is up to date with what the schema and the intent should be, such that the dependencies it's declaring, I'm hoping just work without even having to change the package or rebuild the package. But if it doesn't work, then happy to change the whatever the details are, how to express a dependency in that package if it's not right.
Yeah, exactly. With what I have right now, there should be no changes.
Sweet. Sounds good. Casey or Move Off, is there any other additional things you want to dive into around providers and code generation and that effort there?
I just added a bullet point below, but I can go through it right now. We have a PR open that adds, as Phil mentioned, API gateway resources, 12 of them. So far, it looks good, but I haven't completed like the full testing of them. And also, I plan to add some update functionality to them. If we can get them in this week, I think we're gonna do a release for provider AWS before the KubeCon. So we thought that we can get those 12 new resources in, and then I will move on to expanding the support for new class of resources, let's say.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And then I think there were a couple additional resources that, like the IAM access key, user access key, And then the S3 bucket policy to V1 beta 1 that I think would get pulled into that patch release as well. Unless,
Yeah.
Dan, that got pulled into 0.14 or what, 0.13 or whatever.
Sorry, say that again.
Oh, just those two hanging PRs that we had. That'll get rolled into the patch release too.
Oh,
From
the
Krish.
AWS ones.
Yep.
Yeah. Those will probably be actually another minor release, but yeah.
Okay, got it. So we'll do another minor release of AWS, maybe like towards the end of this week.
Yeah, I believe so.
Cool.
Okay, so like a 0.15 for AWS.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so that sounds good. Right on.
Yeah.
Casey, yeah, you as well.
On the Azure side, like Phil said, Dan has a PR up against provider Azure, which adds the generated types from ASO CodeGen. He took pains in the PR to make sure it was very clear that this was like just the types, doesn't really do much, experimental. And there's some things we want to change, like for example, all of the ASO parameters kind of have an extra level of nesting, like they have it at the top level, all the things that are general to all ASO resources like tags and what group it's in. Then there's a properties field below that. And one thing he wants to do is kind of roll that up another level, similar to how our handwritten Azure provider resources look. So take a look at that and give feedback on if there's any other kind of considerations you want him to think about as far as what the provider, what the resource type should look like. But he and I are also working on a design doc to figure out how we can leverage their code generation that actually takes those types and integrates with the ARM to manage the life cycle of the types. So there's a little bit of complexity there that we're still sorting through. But once we figure that out, we'll be able to generalize the ASO CodeGen to also generate cross-plane reconcilers. Then on the Terraform side, like Phil mentioned, we have types that represent all the primitive types, excluding all the deeply nested types, which are a little more complicated. And so this week I'm working on getting all the nested types also in the Go CRD output. So that should be coming sometime this week.
Awesome, Casey. That's great. Thanks for those updates, man. Very excited to see that the progress continue on that.
Yeah, it's really starting to come together on all the fronts. So nice to see that.
Cool. All right. And then in terms of a release for the v1.0 release, the hope and the effort is towards targeting the first week of December, as we had mentioned on last call. And then kind of one reason for that would be that that is an anniversary for Crossplane. December 4th was the first public release of Crossplane. So if we could do it around then, that would be cool. But we will obviously have to look at our, the way we were trending with getting in the things we need and get the right quality and all that sort of stuff as well too. So we'll continue tracking that and pushing towards that. But let's stay on top of making sure that we're getting in what we need to and at quality as well too. Awesome. Any other things to bring up on upcoming releases? All right. Okay, we can move on to the community topics section here. Dan, do you want to give us an update on TBS episodes?
Yep. So we're scheduled to have the Red Hat episode next Thursday at our usual time. That is during KubeCon, which might conflict with some traffic there. So we could either move that date or we might just do it and say, hey, here's another KubeCon thing going on. And it can kind of be part of the announcements coming out that week. So stay tuned for that. I'll definitely make sure to post about it if that does change. Can
we put it on the official KubeCon schedule?
Doubtful.
Cool. And that's not like your talk isn't during that time slot, is it?
No, I think mine's on. Well, I actually don't know. I think mine's on. I assumed that I would just, look when KubeCon started and see.
When do I speak? All right, cool. Thanks, Dan. And then speaking of KubeCon talks, we recorded and submitted and got all those in for the 2 talks that we're doing. Dan's talk with Steve, I believe, and then my talk with Wonderflow and Andy from Alibaba. Those are all submitted and everything looks good there. And then, during our sessions, we'll need to be present for the live Q&A at the end of the talk. So make sure you check your schedule and see when your talk is and be there to answer questions. And then this is probably the best time to mention this. So Phil, you said that there is links here at the bottom for all the talks.
Yeah. So if you just scroll down, and then in this blog post, there's actually a great intro video that Dan did with some of the folks over at Packet or Edge Metal now. And then basically kind of walk through the 0.13 release, and then some of the KubeCon preview stuff that we did with the new stack. So definitely check that out. And then we have some office hours on Wednesday. And so you can just register for the Zoom there. And then we have a couple talks that Jared and Dan are doing that Jared just kind of walked us through there. So yeah, looking forward to seeing everybody there and some good stuff.
Awesome. And I have already added these to my sched. So you can click on these links and then add them to your KubeCon schedule, your personal schedule as well too, which is nice functionality. Dan and Steven, your talk here was a tutorial format, right? So that's like a good 85-minute session thing.
Yep.
Awesome.
And we'll go through, Steven does a nice intro to just kind of like why Crossplane and Crossplane runtime are valuable. So it's a mix of tutorial and informational, and then we'll be around in the chat as well to help any folks who want to follow along.
Awesome. That's exciting. Yeah, I've already added it to my schedule, so I can just join that at least. Awesome. And Phil, did you the Crossplane office hours Meet the Maintainers session here? Did you mention register? Is there a place for people to register for it, or they just go to the Zoom link?
If you click the join here, it's just a shortcut. If you
it is a register.
It'll take you to actually register for the Zoom.
Okay.
I'll send you an invite. So yeah, go ahead and do that, and I should give you that.
Is that on the is that links from the sched page as well too?
Yeah. So if you scroll down a little, I think there's.
Here it is here. Join. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Nice. Well, thanks for adding this to the blog post, Phil. That's useful to have that for more eyes on it.
Totally.
Right on. Okay, cool. And then, so the Project Pavilion booth, I spent some time last week to get that fully set up and updated. So all of our assets and materials and everything are up to date there. And the booth is ready to go. Added everyone as staffers as well too, that had expressed interest in it. So everyone should be registered and be able to, well, I don't know if you can access the booth yet or not, but everyone should be registered and added as a staffer to the booth there. And then, so as Phil was talking about here, our project office hours session, our Meet the Maintainers session, they are kind of calling it 2 different things in different places. Like some places it's called office hours and some places it's called Meet the Maintainers. I don't know what exactly the official name is. But as Phil mentioned, that's on Wednesday at noon Pacific and 3 Eastern. I'm still looking for someone to drive this, to give a presentation and kind of drive the session there. So I think it's a really good opportunity to kind of get out there and kind of have some interface with the public and the community a little bit on Crossplane. So if anyone is interested in that, just let me know. I think is Nick on the call? No, he's not. But I think Kirsten just put Nick's name down on the sign up sheet. So we'll see when Nick notices that. But yeah, I think it's open, and if Nick wants to do it, that's absolutely fine. But anybody who's interested in driving this is more than welcome to. Right, and then as we mentioned before we started the official call here in the recording, the call for proposals for the next KubeCon is already up and available, and the deadline is December 13th. So you don't get quite a full month between the end of this KubeCon and the time to submit a proposal for the next one. One good thing, because I was speaking with the CNCF representatives this morning, and we gave them some feedback about this KubeCon here that's just about to start for North America. That the length of time in between being accepted to speak at the conference and the due date for recording your talk was very short this time. It didn't really work well for some folks, including myself. So I gave that feedback this morning, but they had already put up this page for the call for proposals for the next one. And I think they got that, they said that they got that feedback from a lot of people, that there wasn't enough time. So there's a full 2 months now in between notifying you that your talk was accepted and at least the doing the conference. So I believe they said that there's more time too of when the due date is to upload your talk as well too. So it seems like that feedback was accepted, so that's good. Okay, so that's KubeCon. Anybody who wants to discuss things or has questions or anything, they can find us in our Slack and slack.crossplane.io, and we can talk more about KubeCon and stuff. And we'll be online that whole week and at the KubeCon booth. So looking forward to chatting with everybody there. Move off. You already mentioned these new generated resources, right? There's nothing else to go into there.
Yeah, there's much else.
Cool. And then Casey, you had mentioned this code generation PR as well too, right? Was there more to mention there?
No, it's what I talked about.
Okay, cool. And then we also talked about Krish's resources that went in for AWS after the provider AWS was released. So that will be included in the next minor release that we're planning on doing this week that incorporates both of the generated resources for AWS and Krish's handcrafted with love resources as well too. So that should be in the next provider AWS release later on this week. And so I think that's everything that was on the agenda for the community topics section. If there aren't further agenda items there, then we can jump into the PRs to discuss section. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So, Kasper, do you want to kind of give us a bit of a description here about this effort and kind of the scenarios that Tilt solves and helps with?
Yeah, sure. So Tilt is a developer tooling that mostly you work with it when you're working against a Kubernetes cluster. What it does is it watches some folders and does something with it. That something can be just building the image, reloading the images, deploying a new workload or something like that. Which in this case, it might be a good idea to use. For example, we can just tilt up against the core Crossplane and point to any local provider. So what you end up doing is essentially just moving back and forth between your editor and the terminal to see if the changes is applied correctly, check the kubectl logs to see if the changes is done correctly or not. I can quickly demo something if there is time, otherwise this is just, as I said, PR. There's some more work to do for it, a good starting point to
Yeah, Kasper, there's not any other agenda items on the agenda for today. So if you wanted to share a little demo of it in action, that's great.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll stop my share here, and then you should be able to start a share on your side now.
Cool. So can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay, so what I did is I just went ahead and started a current cluster locally, and in the meantime, actually, I updated the build submodule as well and added the corresponding tilt target as well. So what we need to do essentially is start and tilt up. Wait for it to pop up, and essentially. In the meantime, so start watching the parts for Okay, cursor of delta mouse. Okay. Oh, I see. I got a problem with my internet just for a second. That caused the issue. Yes. So this was working. And now I can try to.
Does Tilt use like an existing Kubernetes development cluster you already have, like a Kind cluster or a Minikube or something like that, or is Tilt itself like a cluster?
No, you need to point Tilt to some cluster. It can be a remote cluster or a local one. Most probably, it will be. It makes sense to use a. Most probably, most of the time, it makes sense to just spin up a local cluster and then use Tilt against that.
Got it. So like Tilt is kind of like a syncer, like it syncs like your active development changes to a cluster that you're pointing it at.
Yes, it essentially does a little bit more than that, but yeah, that's the essence of it. So, for example, one example of it, it watches for changes in any of these, and then it executes, for example, this line, whatever that line is, for example, building the Crossplane itself outside of Docker image. Then it goes ahead, you can define it, to build a Docker image out of it, then deploy a Helm chart out of that, which uses this on the fly images. And what's cool about it is that whenever there is a change here, it's not going to change and execute the whole thing again. It knows that it builds it and on the fly replace the binary inside the running container. So it saves a lot of time. So changing initial running the Tilt may take, for example, like, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds, but changing the Go file and saving it, it's going to reload the binary in the container less than a second, something like that. So it's quite efficient in that.
It's like Starlark. Is that what those Tilt files are?
Yes, exactly. Okay, so I have no idea why this keeps happening. The demo course. Yeah, I'm just stop sharing now. We can come back to it if I figure it out and there's time.
Cool. And Khosrow, with your experiences so far, does it have well, two questions? One, like if it tries to sync your changes to your development cluster with like every time you save, does it have much performance impact in terms of like trying to do a lot of things in the background and using some resources, or does it ever deploy things that are kind of half baked, like you're kind of in the middle of a change and you haven't really built the new functionality and you save and it deploys it out and kind of breaks the cluster? How does that work?
In terms of the resources, no, it's quite lightweight. So basically, whenever you need to define the dependency correctly, as I showed that I defined the dependency of the only do something when there is a change in, for example, GoMod or package folder or API folder, whatever it's like. So this reduces the interaction of the Tilt to run something. For example, if I change a Markdown file, right? So that is something that potentially can be limited, but otherwise, if you just put it in the whole folder, in the whole repository, it still is not super aggressive. For your second question, yes, that is something that, for example, if you are working on a feature which touches, let's say, 4 different Go files, and you're working actively in all of them, and if you want to, by habit, change something, save, go to the next file, change something, save, by each save, it's going to do something on the cluster. So for some time in between, it does something, it deploys something in your cluster, and your cluster, or your workload rather, is unhealthy because the whole feature is not implemented yet. But then again, it's not a big deal. It's a local cluster. The rotation of the binary in that cluster is super fast. So you can just keep the habit of change something in the file, save it, go to the next file, save it, and go on.
Cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And if you have syntax errors and the compilation fails, does that just halt the process? It like won't even try to update the binary because it doesn't have a good binary that it got from your most recent changes?
That depends. Either it's a right upfront error from the tilt that you would immediately see there's a error, or so the binary was not able to build properly, or the problem is maybe more subtle and you save it, the tilt was able to deploy it, but the error would pop up somewhere on the, for example, deployment. Then again, you would immediately get the feedback under seconds, something like that. You change something, you go in your browser, see there's some error popped up that you would immediately see the logs of your pods in the browser. You don't necessarily need to just dig in your terminal to see, okay, what was the pod name again? Do I need to follow the log or whatever? Everything is accessible in the browser.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. Where did the Tilt project come from? Who started that? Was it like an independent effort, or did it come from some SIG or?
No, it was an independent effort. I think actually no. There was two person from they were ex-Googler, and they started the project.
Cool.
Dan Bentley. I don't know if you know.
No.
Dan and Nick Santos, I think.
Awesome. That's cool. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I'd be interested to see, like how that experience goes, or as you kind of finish off that edition there, how how it seems like it's got a lot of potential. So that sounds pretty cool. Dan Mangum, you got a chance to look at this already too, right? Did you already have some ideas about using it as a dev tool and the improvements that come from it?
I definitely think it's a good idea. I haven't reviewed this PR in depth yet or anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, I'm excited to see that work continue on that. Thank you for that addition, Cosmo. It looks really useful.
Yeah, always.
Nice.
I hope I was able to demo it, but yeah, everything just broke.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Cool. So that is, I think that's all of the topics that we had on the agenda. Is there anything else that folks wanted to bring up while we're still together? All right. Well, then next week is KubeCon. We'll see everybody there and online for sure. Should be a fun and exciting, busy week. And then we'll all stay in touch. Sweet.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jared.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Yep. Happy Monday.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.